Alright, it is POE2 time. Now, I've been very short on time, and I kind of want to go in blind, so I haven't seen anything on POE2. Pretty much yesterday and today was my first day to look, and the only things I'm looking at are the ascendancies, the skill gems, and what little we have of the skill tree. With that, I should be able to make an informed enough decision on what I want to play. Now, I have 3 starters that have piqued my interest. The first one, and the one that is guaranteed to work, is going to be Graybeard Braid Boy. Now, I don't have any of their names memorized, and for whatever reason, they didn't put the name of it on my little screenshot here, but Graybeard Braid Boy has a lot of very interesting shit. The most interesting to me is that bad boy right here. Carry a chest which has 20 inventory slots. Now, you guys are like, oh, well, that's just a dumb-ass fucking node. And you're right. It is a dumb node, but this is a new game. I'm going to want to spend as much time as I can out in the world exploring, and I'm going to want to pick up as much shit as possible. I'm going to want to TP as little times as possible. So with this bad boy, I'm going to be able to carry 20 more pieces of rings. I'm going to grab 20 more rings with this one thing, so I'm going to be 20 rings above everyone else. It's going to be great. But the real gem is the hulking form, which 50% increase effect of small passive skills. Now that is wild. That is crazy. That is bonkers. And then I would pair that with a number 2 and a number 3. 20% chance for slam skills. You use yourself to cause aftershocks. And then number 3 is every second slam skill you use yourself is ancestrally boosted. And we all know I like that incest boost. Now, what would I use? What skills would I use with this type of setup? I would do a leap slam for my first slam skill. You leap slam, then you're going to do a war cry, seismic cry. So it's leap slam, seismic cry, and then I'll probably do a volcanic fissure. Now I'm going to read volcanic fissure here. Slam the ground, creating a widening fissure that deals area damage while traveling outwards, then persist from a duration. Fro a duration. Okay, that's a typo in there. Or fro a duration is what, like, Old English, sometimes these crazy Kiwis throw their Kiwi language in here. Slamming a fissure with a different slam skill will cause it and all connected fissures to trigger aftershocks. So this is how this build will work. You leap slam, you war cry, you volcanic fissure, and that volcanic fissure is going to be your second slam, so it's going to be ancestrally boosted. And then you leap slam on your ancestrally boosted volcanic fissure, which is then going to cause other shockwaves. So it's going to be shockwaves on incest, and you're just going to leap on people, scream at them, hit them with fire, and then leap on the fire, and then proceed on. I think it's a really fun triple button playstyle. Now, I don't know how good war cries are going to be. So if the war cries are not very good, you can just do a double, leap slam, which you're probably already going to have. And then, a boom boom. A boom boom. I think this is going to work. I think this is just going to be easy. It's going to be awesome. And this is what I should start. This should be my starter. But we all know it's not going to. It's too good. It's too good to be my starter, right? It is too good to be my starter. Now, what would I do? Stop it. Get some help. What would I do for pathing? I would just do some attributes, right? You got this big star attribute. I think there's another star somewhere on this tree. But 2% increased damage per 5 of your lowest attributes, 10% increased attributes. And I wouldn't do a strength stacker, I wouldn't do a dex stacker, I wouldn't do an int stacker. I'd try to stack all 3 attributes and just pump them up. It's going to give you a lot of good bonuses for all that. And on this tree, there's other stuff like 10% increased attack damage, gain accuracy equal to your strength. And I think there's a dex one somewhere in here. Somewhere in here, there's a dex one, wherever it's at. So you have a lot of attribute nodes that are really cool. So I just turned this into a generic, boring attribute stacking, leap slamming, volcanic fissuring crybaby. He's going to be a screamer and a squirter for sure. That is the Titan. I remembered his name. He is the Titan. This is going to be a good build. This is going to be a lot of tankiness, and it's going to work. But it's not that interesting. Pathfinder, however, has a lot of nodes that have piqued my interest. The Grant 5 passive skill nodes. Now, the power of this is probably pretty lame, but the fun of this is all that matters. This is a giant, brand new skill tree that none of us have had time to play with, to fiddle with, and having 5 extra points on here is going to be one of the most fun nodes in the game. And I typically try to prioritize fun over everything else. So I think having 5 more skill points is going to be a whole lot of fun. Another aspect is your speed is unaffected by slows and 30% less movement penalty when using a skill while moving. All 3 of these seem to be relatively universal, and since once you pick your ascendancy you can't swap them out, it's a pretty good idea to find an ascendancy that isn't pigeonholed into one type of build. Like, let's say you pick a ascendancy that turns you into a fire demon, and the only thing you can really do is be a fire demon. Now let's say that fire demon's not that great, and you don't really like the entire aesthetic of the ascendancy. And you're like, okay, well, I got to switch. That means you got to start over from scratch. And I don't want to deal with none of that kind of mess. I want something that if my original plan doesn't work, I can hit plan B. I can even dip down into plan C. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So for that reason, I think the Pathfinder is pretty great. And if you don't like any of this shit here, we don't know what slows do. Well, I don't. Maybe they announced it. I don't know what slows do. I have no clue how many slows are in the game. So I don't know how good that is. But I'm assuming, given, their affinity for bullshit, if I'm going to put it politely, their affinity for some fucking bullshit, they're probably going to have a lot of fucking slows. And there's probably a lot of explosions on the ground. There's probably a lot of annoying ass shit in this game, like traps and all kinds of bullshit that's going to slow you down. So I'm thinking this relentless pursuit is going to be that this bad boy right here, it's going to be real nice. It's going to be real nice. What the heck just happened? Why is it? It's a new app. Whatever is happening. There we go. Enable laser pointer. I like this. I stole this from a fuzzy duck. Whee! Okay. Now, this one seems pretty cool, right? And I'd probably do some type of poison build. I'd probably want to do... I got very distracted. I completely lost my train of thought. I'd want to do gas arrow. So gas arrow... Fire a noxious arrow into the ground, creating a cloud of flammable poisonous gas at the end of its flight. The cloud will detonate if hit by a detonator skill or if an ignited enemy touches it, creating a fiery explosion. Now, this is a weird skill. Is it a poison skill? Fire a noxious arrow into the ground, creating a cloud of flammable poisonous gas. But it's doing 134% of attack damage. It's not converting to chaos. And it's a fiery explosion. I'm not sure if this is... It says poisonous gas, but I'm not sure if this is going to inflict poison. I'm guessing it's going to inflict poison, and the gym tagging is wrong, and the gym words are wrong. I'm assuming it inflicts poison. So with that bad boy, I'd probably grab the most damaging poison on an enemy you kill spreads to other enemies. That's probably what my fourth one would be after I take these bottom 3. And then I would do gas, arrow, and then what's the other? I'll just do arrow. A detonating arrow. Channel to build up power before firing off a burning arrow. The arrow will detonate on impact at maximum charge, causing an explosion in an area around it. Gain 120% of extra fire damage per stage. My nose is clogged, so I can't talk. Gain 120% of damage as extra fire damage per stage. 4 stages. So that's 480. And you charge it, and while you're charging it, you're still going to be able to move pretty well. 30% move penalty while moving, and you're not affected by slows. So that charging is going to be a big deal. So I would do like greater multiple projectiles with the gas arrow. I'd throw a few gas arrows in the mix, and then I would charge up a giant detonating arrow, blowing them all to shit. And I think that would be a lot of fun. I think that would be a very, very fun build. And if it works like I'm thinking, you're going to get a bleed with the gas arrow. A poison with the gas arrow. Then an ignite with the detonating arrow. And then possibly, you can rock the bleeding concoction for bleed. Now in Path of Exile 1, triple stacking poison, bleed, and ignite is virtually impossible to make a good build out of it. In the latest season of POE1, they finally made it so you can do a poison bleed build with the reworked, I forget what that thing is called. It allows your multiplier to count for poison multiplier, damage over time multiplier, and that works for both poison and bleed. So I made a pretty effective poison bleed build that was like 8 million poison, 8 million bleed and like 4 million poison. So it's about half as much damage for the poison as it was for the bleed, but the way I built it. And yeah, a pure bleed build is still better, and a pure poison build in POE1 is still better. But I am a hipster. I like to find the weird shit, and being able to poison and bleed is pretty weird. Now, if this game allows me, this is why this is on my dream starter. If this game allows me to do a bleed, poison, ignite build in this game, that's going to be the build of my dreams. That's going to be my dream build right there. That's my dream hoe. And if throwing concoctions allows you to walk while throwing, so you're not fixed in place where you're throwing the concoctions, you can run around throwing bleed concoctions, tossing out gas arrows, charging up a big old fatty to blow that shit up, and I think it might be pretty damn cool. I think that would be pretty damn cool. So that's what interests me. The flask, right, this is just regular Pathfinder shit. It's pretty boring, but it's always good. So I think this is a pretty solid starter for me. I can't imagine being immune to slow as being a bad thing. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a good thing. So, but this guy's probably like in the 3rd place right now. He's got about 15 votes. Fatty here has about 20 votes. This bad boy has the most amount of votes. Now, when I first saw this bad boy, and it was skills have a 33% chance not to consume cooldowns when used, and then time snap, which resets cooldowns, I immediately thought Shockwave from Path of Exile 1. You get like 5 cooldowns on that Shockwave, and you have a 33% chance not to consume them. And when you're using Cyclone, they hit almost instantly. So that's like 7 Shockwaves in less than a second. Then you trigger time snap, and you're gonna get 7 more shockwaves, which you can then trigger instantly. And if time snap is an instant skill and there's no cast time, and you just pop it like a guard skill, you don't even have to let go of Cyclone. And I thought that would be amazing, but I saw the ascendancies before I saw the skill gems. And if we take a look at the Shockwave skill gem, they did this shit dirty. Oh, I gotta go to support gems. Oh, damn, they updated this. Interesting. Impact Shockwave. Supported skills create an aftershock when they heavy stun an enemy, dealing the same damage to enemies within 1.4 meters. Okay, they killed my boy. They killed my Shockwave. Cyclone Shockwaves was my favorite build. It's gone. Give me a couple seconds to grieve, and I'm over it. Now, why is this a little bit cool? It's obviously much worse than regular shockwave, but what makes this cool? What makes this cool? Dealing the same damage to the enemies within 1.4 meters. So there is a hammer. Oh, I'm in the support section. So let's go here. There is a hammer of the gods, which is doing 1,307% of attack damage. I'm pretty sure that's at like level 1 of the gym, so it's going to go even higher with that bad boy. So if you hit with the hammer of the gods and it triggers the shockwave, it should hit with this big value here. So that'll double that damage. Then you have a 33% chance to not consume it. So you get to hit that again, and that'll be, 4 hits, right? 4 hits of the hammer of the gods. And then you recool that, and if we're living in a perfect world, then you get another 4 hits of the hammer of the gods. And by that time, that 24-second cooldown is probably getting pretty close to being ready again. But we have some other tech that we can do. We have some other tech. Okay, let's see. What am I going to do? Hourglass support. I think that's what it's called. Hourglass support. Let's look at this bad boy. Supported skills do 40% more damage and have 10 seconds more of cooldown. We're already waiting 24 seconds. I believe it's something like the Simpsons paradox or the Simpsons principle in mathematics, which dictates that when you add values to 2 sets of numbers and one set of number is much larger, the added value has less of an impact. This is why inflation hits poor people, because like let's just say gas for a poor person is like 10% of his total spending, but gas for a rich person is only 0.00001% of his total spending. So when gas shoots up a bunch, it has no impact on the rich people. It doesn't even have an impact on the kind of well-off to do. But the poor people, it really hits them hard. They're being hit by the exact same numbers, but one's already big. So if you have a skill that's at a 2-second cooldown and you add 10 seconds to it, that is rough. But if you got a skill that's at 24 seconds for a cooldown and you add an extra 10 seconds, that is not so bad, especially because we are getting reduced cooldown on the tree. So Hourglass support, obviously going to be a hot little gym, but they also have a little bit of second wind. So on second wind, I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same. Skills have 50% less cooldown recovery rate. That'll suck, but supported skills have twice as many cooldown uses. Now that says twice as many cooldown uses, which for this instance, I don't think is going to be any level of importance, unless there's a way to double it. Like if you can get that Hammer of the Gods skill to 2, then since it's doubling it, that'll turn it to 4. But I don't know if we got something like that. If we do have something like that, that'll be incredible, and this turns it into an infinite loop of Hammer of the Gods. So if there's a way to get a +1 to the cooldown, to the charge count of Hammer of the Gods, second wind will give it 4. And you have a 33% chance not to consume a cooldown when used. And, hitting 4 times, you're going to trigger that at least once, right? At least once out of that mix. Possibly even more than that. So that's pretty dope. And then I would probably just pair that second wind. I'd either try to do a bleed situation, or like brutality would be pretty badass. Brutality is doing 35% more physical. So if you throw brutality in there with chance to bleed, and I think there it was called deep cuts. Okay, well that was weird. 75% more magnitude of bleeding inflicted with supported skills. Supported skills do 25% less damage with hits. Now, this seems like it would be pretty dope. If you get a bleed on with this, it's going to be huge. And since you're hitting like 4 times with the hammer, your odds of getting a bleed, even if you're at like 30%, are pretty high. And if you stack your bleed duration, you'll hit with the hammer. And if your hammer's on cooldown, you can do something like minions to keep them busy. Then when the hammer's off of cooldowns, you run back up and you hit them again. It seems pretty damn cool. So there's brutality, hourglass, aftershock might be pretty cool with that. There was a weird like poison one that might be pretty rad with that. And it just seems kind of interesting. But one of the problems with that starter is you get this at level 41. And I don't know how available Hammer of the Gods is going to be for Sorceress. I don't know if these skill gems are kind of locked in for your class. Because I'd be pretty devastated if I picked this chick primarily to reduce the cooldown of that Hammer of the Gods skill. And I can't even get it. I have to wait till end game so I can trade for it. Even though you have to be level 42, so I might as well wait till end game to do that. That'd be pretty rough. But how I would roll this chick if I start her is I would start with the probably recoup. I imagine the recoup's going to be really important. And I imagine that recovery is going to be important because in Path of Exile 1, they were reducing recovery for quite a while. They've been trying to make it so you don't recover as much, even though there's a bunch of broken ways to recover pretty much all your life instantly. But they've still been trying to reduce it, which makes me think that recoup duration is much higher because now it says recoup effects instead occur every 4 seconds. And I'm guessing that recoup is now 8 seconds. So 30% recoup for 8 seconds instead of 4. That actually might be kind of nice. So you get hit by an enemy and you're running around and you're just slowly gaining for a little bit longer. Which might help to mitigate a bunch of smaller hits. I don't know. It might feel pretty nice. Obviously, the shorter duration is better for really hairy situations, but it might be all right for that long duration. And then after I get this bad boy, I would pick up the slow. Enemies in your presence are slowed by 20%. I'm getting old. I'm an old man. My reflexes are not as good. I want these brand new bosses with Dark Souls-like mechanics to be a little bit slower. I was so excited when I saw that. I hope it doesn't have diminishing return for bosses. And you know what I'm going to pair that with? I'm going to pair that with Temp Chains. You know I'm going to pair that with Temp Chains. I'll be slowing people by 60%. Their asses ain't moving anywhere. And if I plan to do some kind of chill skill, you're basically just stopping everything. Because you can slow them with Temp Chains, they'll be 55% slower. Then you chill them with the freeze spell, you're going to be stopping everybody. But that slowed is going to be incredible. I have a feeling POE2 is going to be a lot of assholes. A lot of assholes doing a lot of asshole shit. And them doing that asshole shit slower, it turns me on. Then after I get the slows, then I will do the 33% chance not to consume a cooldown and time snap. Because I don't think time snap is going to be as useful early game as it will be end game. Simply because you got more tools at the end game. You got more tools to cool down. But since that Hammer of the Gods, or whatever that was, isn't available at the start, I will probably just run minions until I can get it. Now, the minions seem pretty cool. Someone in my Discord said that minions use a new resource called, like, Spirit, and I'm pretty sure they're going to auto-spawn. And if this cooldown reduction and chance to not consume charge, not to consume a cooldown when used. I keep trying to call it a cooldown charge, but it doesn't have charge anywhere in the name. Skills have 33% chance not to consume a cooldown when used. I just expected to say cooldown charge, but okay. Anyways, I wonder if that counts for minions, right? So the minions are gonna spawn and they're gonna have a cooldown, and they're gonna die pretty quickly. So if you're just using your minions as a defensive mechanism, and it's not really your main damage dealer, you just have the minions to kind of keep them off you. And there was some skills that are, I think, like gain 3% of life when a minion dies. So if this helps you keep your minions alive fast enough, to where they're just kind of like continuously popping in and out, that could have some really good benefits. That could be really cool for minions. And then, let's say all your minions die, right? And then you summon a minion of each type. Then you can just hit time snap and you'll instantly summon minions again. So you'll be able to get your minions in a lot faster. So I think minion time snap bitch is going to be a pretty good build. I know this is really just... Oh, yeah. Breathe out of that nose. And this is, to me, the most interesting class. I am most interested to play this. I'm probably starting a Chronomancer. Yeah. A Time Bandit. I'm starting the Time Bandit. I'm pretty excited for Path of Exile 2, but in order to sleep properly and to continue to do my work, I haven't looked into anything about Path of Exile 2. But GGG has only made one game. And I remember when they first made Path of Exile 1, first launch, that game was trash. It was dog shit. And they fixed it, but it took forever. So the only release they've ever had was a trash release. Of course, it was probably like a team of 5, right? It's a huge accomplishment, I'm sure. But they don't have that much experience launching a new game. I'm expecting issues. I'm expecting a lot of issues. In fact, the odds are pretty high that endgame is ruined by several factors. Extreme imbalance is probably the most likely factor. A second most likely factor could be something along the lines of awkward difficulty spikes, or unbeatable bosses, or buggy mechanics. Like, a lot of the passives could not work, and we don't have POB, and you won't really feel it. Like, if you have something that says 10% reduced damage taken, unless you grab the skill, find a minion to hit you for the exact strength, and then put it back on and off, and no one's going to be doing that level of testing this early on. So my excitement is a 10 out of 10, but it's not quite what it was for something like Elden Ring, which I knew was going to be a banger, which is great. My expectations are not through the moon. I really don't think GGG is going to disappoint me with this, because it's going to probably be fun. It's probably going to be great, and they're going to get so much data. They're going to get so much information from this pre-launch that by the time it's actually launched with seasons and it's kind of going gangbusters, it'll be pretty damn good. I think GGG took a huge risk, and I like people that take risk. Now, the risk they took is they're pulling in a lot of new players. They're pulling in a ton of new players for an early access. And most people, most sane people, understand that early access kind of means beta. Kind of means you can expect things to go wrong. But D4 brain people are pretty dumb. So the D4 brain guy is going to come over to POE early access, and if something goes wrong, they're going to go, oh, this game's trash. They're going to bounce out. And then when it officially releases, they might never come back, right? They might lose a long-term player. I doubt that's going to happen, because they're playing Diablo 4. And then when they move to PoE, they'll be like, oh, this actually has like things to do and mechanics, and it's a little bit difficult. And they're probably going to like it. Now, I'm not shitting on D4. D4 is Gauntlet Legends. I love Gauntlet Legends, or Magicka. I love Magicka. Those games are great, but they have a time and a place, and they're not forever games. D4 is awesome for 60 hours, for 50 hours. After that, not so much. Nah, I can't play it for more than that. But couch co-op with Diablo 4 is probably excellent. Like, you have 4 players on a PlayStation, all you playing Diablo 4 with controllers, hit up that blunt. That's probably a real fucking good time. I guarantee that's an amazing time. And that's how some people are playing Diablo 4. And so when some people are like super hyped about Diablo 4, they're getting like a 2008 COD experience, like a couch co-op COD experience. Some people are. So there's a lot of reasons like that game. All right, last video. Time Bandits looking pretty badass. POE2 is I don't know. The press, the internet attention is sky high. The fact that the D4 dude talks shit on Twitter, like, we need, how do we call things Diablo-like, or whatever the fuck he said, is showing that Path of Exile 2 is threatening D4 a little bit. Like, let's just pretend that you are the big boss man over at D4, whoever that is, and you have a game that's kind of very, very successful. Not successful in terms of reputation, but in terms of money. Diablo 4 has been a fucking cash cow for Blizzard. They have made a ton of money on Diablo 4. So financially, Diablo 4 is a huge success. Argue all you want, but Diablo 4 is a huge success from a financial standpoint. So you have this cash cow that is a huge success only because there's not a lot of competition. And Path of Exile 1 released so long ago, and the graphics are so shit, and the feel of Path of Exile 1 is not as good as the feel of Diablo 4. It's just not. The game was too old. So there's no Diablo 4, like, hardcore Diablo 4 players coming to Path of Exile. At least not to the same scale that they will come over to Path of Exile 2. And humans, god damn, we are a stupid bunch. It might be school. It might be school that made us this dumb. Like, you go to school and they teach you to follow the herd, to respect authority. Because, like, I could have went to school and learned everything they taught me in probably a year or two. But I would learn the math, and it was super easy. And then I'd just sit there while all these other people couldn't figure it out. Fuck, I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about anymore. I ain't feeling great. I'm going to use that excuse. Whee!